Welcome to the PJ Hoop Podcast. I'm your host, PJ, and if this is your very first time checking out my podcast, first and foremost, I want to thank you for taking the time out of your day to check out my podcast. This is a basketball podcast, so predominantly I talk about the NBA, but I also like to cover high school, college, and international basketball. Today's date, it's Wednesday, January 21st. It's about 12 p.m., 2026. So anything that happens after 12 o'clock today will not be featured on this episode. Understand, too, that I try to keep my episodes between 25 and 35 minutes. So there's going to be things that I don't talk about in this episode. Understand that's by design. That's not like me just not knowing. So if there's anything that I may not hint on in this episode that you want to talk more about, down in the comment section below or on any of my shorts, go ahead, shoot me a message, and we can talk there more about something, okay? So I want to give you guys the topics that I go over week in and week out. The first being a topic I like to call PJ's Echelon. Now, in PJ's Echelon, essentially, is just my power rankings, and I'll give you guys the parameters for that here shortly. That's going to be my first topic. Another is a segment I like to call What's New. Now, in What's New, I'm talking about some type of NBA news that may have happened over this last week. It could be some type of NBA historical history that was made this last week, or it could just be me straight up ranting. Today, we're going to actually talk about some of the NBA contract situations. And I usually go over the contract situations during the summertime when I preview all 30 NBA teams. But we're getting close to the deadline, so I kind of just want to refresh you guys' memory, give a couple new thoughts on some teams as well, okay? So we're going to do that today. Another segment is a segment I like to call Games of the Week. Now, in Games of the Week, I'm talking about games I enjoyed watching. That could be in the NBA or college or high school. Or it could be some games of some type of significance in any of those three levels as well, okay? Today, we're going to talk about the Minnesota Timberwolves playing the San Antonio Spurs a few nights ago. We're going to talk about that game today. And then we'll look forward to some NBA games and some college games I'm looking forward to this week. The last segment is a segment I like to call In the Lab. Now, in the Lab, I'm talking about today's NBA rookies, high school, college, or international basketball. Today, we're going to talk about a highly rated prospect in class of 2026. We're going to talk about him today. And then today will be the last day that we talk about high school for a while until the Chipotle Nationals happen later in a couple months. And then also the Nike Hoop Summer will be the next time we'll talk about some of these high schools. So we'll leave high school alone after today. We'll just focus on college and the NBA for the next few months, okay? My first segment is a segment I like to call PJ's Echelon. Now, in PJ's Echelon, essentially, it's just my power rankings. Understand that this is a progressive list because I am a progressive man. I'm not a perfect man. And the parameters that I like to use for my power rankings, one being statistically where the team sits, the team's record, eye test, and then the team's strength of schedule. Let's dive straight into it. I don't want to waste any more of you guys' time. My number one team this week, and they're still going to be number one this week, and that is the Detroit Pistons. Detroit right now, they're 31-10. They're 11th in offensive rating. They're second in defensive rating, and they're tied for second in net rating. They're 14-4 against teams above 500. They're 14-2 in games decided by 10 points or more. This week, they got games against the Rockets and then the Denver Nuggets coming up, so I'll be keeping a close eye on them. But for this week, I'm going to give them one more week. They can stay number one this week because I feel like they've done a pretty good job of steadying the ship, right? Number two, this team is 36-8, and that is the Oklahoma City Thunder. Oklahoma right now, they're fifth in offensive rating, first in defensive rating, and first in net rating. And kind of just what I just said about Detroit, but OKC, I could make an argument to put them back number one, but I feel like Detroit's done a pretty good job this week to hold their spot number one. They lost by 2 to the Heat on Saturday, which, come on. Friday night, South Beach, middle of January. I'm not going to hold that against them. I don't care about them losing to Miami at all. You're in Miami. You're in South Beach, okay? Enough said. I don't need to go into details why that. You guys know how I feel about Miami on here. I've been pretty steady when it comes to any team going to Miami on the weekends. They should steamroll this week, though. They play the Bucks, the Pacers, They play the Bucks, the Pacers, the Raptors, and the Pelicans. And they get the Pacers, Raptors, and Pelicans all at home. So I expect them to steamroll this week. Number 3, this team is 24-15, and that is the Boston Celtics. Boston right now, they're second in offensive rating, 14th in defensive rating, and they're tied for second in net rating. They're 15-7 since December 1st. They're second in net rating during that time frame, and their first in offensive rating during that time frame. They got the 9th worst record in clutch time games. They're 9-13 in those games. Shooting splits are very solid though during that time frame. It's not really them that's the problem. I think it's them just stopping people during that time, but they're shooting 47% from the field, 39 from 3, and 75% from the free throw line during the clutch. Number 4, this team is 30-14. And that is the San Antonio Spurs. San Antonio right now, they're 9th in offensive rating, 3rd in defensive rating, and 5th in net rating. So they played the Wolves when the Wolves were on the second night of a back-to-back. But then they played the Rockets when they were on a second night of a back-to-back. So this week, don't get me wrong, like San Antonio looked solid this week. They obviously, played the Wolves. They beat the Wolves in a very the Wolves came back. Technically, they came back, and but I'm not holding their loss to the Rockets over their heads. Like I said, it was just a wonky week. They had a team coming in that was playing back to back. Then they got to go play back to back. Just a really wonky week. They're 15-8 in clutch time games, which is 65%, which is the 5th best winning percentage during the clutch. They average the 6th most points in the clutch at 11 a game. Shooting splits during the clutch stands at 46.5% from the field, 38.5% from 3, 76% from the free throw line. And I know there's been talk about them giving up leads, and I've noticed that too. They've given up big leads in, I would say, pretty important games. But to me, I think that's just a part of the growing process of learning how to win and winning close games and learning how to close teams out specifically. Not winning close games, but closing teams out. I think this is just a part of the learning process. We forget how young San Antonio really is as a team, so I'm not worried about them giving up leads. Like, it's a part of the growing process of becoming a winning team in the NBA. Number 5, this team is 27-17, and that is the Minnesota Timberwolves. Minnesota, right now, they're 6th in offensive rating, 10th in defensive rating, and 6th in net rating. Schedule was rough for them this last week. I kind of just hinted on it. They played the Rockets, and then the next night they had to go to the Spurs, and the Spurs were rested. But Minnesota was playing a second night of a back-to-back, and they played both games very, very competitive. So that's why I feel good at keeping them at 5. That's why I kept the Spurs at 4. And my number 6 team, you'll see they stayed in their spot. I think them going to Utah and losing in Utah, I think that was more so just a byproduct of those 2 games against Houston and the San Antonio. And it's hard to go into Utah, just like it's hard to go into Portland to win. Like, those are just hard places to go into win, really, when you're coming off of that Texas triangle a little bit. So I didn't hold that over their hands. I think this is still a top 5 team in basketball right now for me. And I'm also giving them credit for how they played in those 2 games. And we'll see how they do for the rest. We'll see how the rest of this week goes. Now, if this week goes bad, then we may move them. But I feel good at them at number 5. And shout out to Ant, how he's performed over the last couple games. Number 6, and it is the Houston Rockets. Houston right now, they're 26-15. They're 3rd in offensive rating, 5th in defensive rating, 4th in net rating. Their schedule did favor them over this last week. But to me also, they showed a lot of grit over this past week because, remember, going into this week, Houston's been kind of they've kind of had a rough patch. Part of it could have been I think part of it was them missing Şengün. Also, I just think they just were playing, just kind of hit a rut in their schedule, which happens to most teams anyways. But they showed grit this last week. They picked up 2 solid wins. I can argue putting them above Minnesota, but they also had a 5-game homestand. They were at home this whole time. They went 4-1 during that stretch. They're 15-3 on the season at home. They got games against Detroit and Philly this week. So let's see how those matchups goes for them. And I believe they're on the road actually for both of those games. So we'll see how they come out of both of those games. I may or may not move them up. I want to give all those teams, the Spurs, Timberwolves, and the Rockets, I want to give them all another week before I even decide to move them. I try not to be reactive off of a week of games. Number 7, and it is the Denver Nuggets. Denver right now, they're 27-13. They're first in offensive rating, 24th in defensive rating, and 7th in net rating. So to me, they deserve this spot regardless of their 2-game skid. To me, they've been very strong and resilient in the injuries they have had to overcome, and they've still been able to win quality games during this stretch. Jamal Murray is just, at least, I think for most of us, continuously showing why he's an all-star. And I don't know if he can make third-team All-NBA because guard spots is very, very tight. But, you know, he deserves consideration for all third-team All-NBA in my opinion. Really, once Jokic get back and if they go on this crazy run and they catch the Thunder for the first seed, which is possible. I ain't going to throw it out the realm. They got a mini road trip coming up. So I'll give them one more week before I consider moving them too. Like I said, I'm just so proud of what they've done during this stretch. Jokic, from what I understand, has started on-court activities. So he should be back pretty soon. Probably in the next, I would say 2.5 weeks, he should be back. Number 8, this team is 27-17. And 27-17, and that is the Phoenix Suns. Phoenix right now, they're 14th in offensive rating, 4th in defensive rating, and 10th in net rating. They're 3-2 since they've been on the 6-game road trip. They play Atlanta on Friday, so they should be able to close that out strong, in my opinion. They're 20-13 against the Western Conference, which to me, like, they were a surpriser team this year. I thought they were going to be a lottery team. I will openly say that, and I've said that to you guys, but they for sure exceeded my expectations and probably some of you guys. But at this point, they're no longer a surprising team. At this point, they're just being a consistent team night in and night out. Let's hope. I'm really hoping, and I'm looking forward to seeing how they look during a 15-game stretch with a healthy Jalen Green. He just came back. So Phoenix, for me, stays at number 8 this week. Number 9, I mean, they don't stay. They move up to number 8 this week. Number 9, this team is 25-18, and that is the New York Knicks. New York right now, they're 4th in offensive rating, 18th in defensive rating, and 9th in net rating. They're on a 4-game losing streak. They're 2-10. They're 2-8 in their last 10 games. I don't know how true the whole Giannis getting to New York, I don't know how true that talk was this summer, but if they had a chance to pull the plug, they should have pulled the plug. So we'll see how this whole, because they just had a players meeting. I believe it was yesterday or the day before. We'll see how they respond to that, and I'm also interested to see. I don't know what's going on with the locker room. I have no idea. I know that Mike Brown showing love to Draymond and them. I know that rubbed players the wrong way, but there's something else going on in that Knicks locker room, which I have no idea about. My Knicks fans, if you're watching this, let us know down in the comment section below what's going on. I have no idea what's going on. I haven't really cared to do any digging on it, truth be told, because to me it's not important. Just because I don't think the Knicks are winning the title. So to me, it's like, it's whatever, right? But I'm interested to see how the team responds to this player-only meeting that Jalen Brunson organized. How much respect do they got for Brunson? We're going to find out. I'm interested to see what happens with the Knicks moving forward. Number 10, this team is 26-19, and that is the Toronto Raptors. Toronto right now, they're 19th in offensive rating, 6th in defensive rating, and 12th in net rating. I kept them here, honestly, by default. Golden State was trending upwards, but they lost Jimmy Butler. And I feel like Orlando, Philadelphia, Miami, Cleveland, they're all just roller coaster teams. Portland's been hot as of late, but Portland's not a top 10 team. So they kind of can stay right here. And then the Clippers are very interesting. They're, chopping their way and making their way upwards. They're 14-9 since December 1st. So Clippers obviously on the uprise, but I'm really just keeping Toronto here because some of these other teams have just been, they just get to be here by default. No disrespect to Toronto, but some of these other teams are better than them and have been performing better than them. But also they've been just, Toronto's been a little bit more steady than some of these other teams. And my teams on the bubble, I just named it to you guys. Philadelphia, Orlando, Cleveland, Miami, and like I said, I wouldn't put the Clippers yet on the bubble, but they're trending upwards. You guys let me know down in the comment section below who's in your top 10 and who do you guys have on your bubble. The next segment is a segment I like to call What's New. Now, What's New, I'm talking about any type of NBA news that happened over this last week. It could be me ranting, or it could be me giving you guys some historical NBA history that was made this last week. Today, I'm not going to say rant, but we're just going to check in as we're getting closer to the trade deadline. I kind of just want to check in on a couple teams' contract situations. Like I said earlier in my episode, I talk about teams' contract situations more in depth during the summertime when I'm doing my season preview for all 30 NBA teams, it's broken down by division. So if you're ever interested in that, you can go ahead and check out some of my summer episodes is when I do that. But I want to check in on some of these contracts because we're getting close to the deadline, right? So let's dive straight into it. I'm not going to spend too much time on this because obviously I'm trying to keep my episode within a certain time frame between 25 and 35 minutes. So we're just going to go through this as fast as possible. And obviously this is headline. The screaming thing and the word on the street, it's not a secret, is the 2028 free agent class is pretty loaded with top-end talent and then just players that can help teams become contenders or just very relevant teams. Another thing with this is that some of this stuff I'm getting ready to say, I literally said it over the summer. So, and some of this is going to be new information. So just, be patient with me, ride with me, interact with me down in the comment section below. Okay. So let's just start off with, let's talk about the Los Angeles Lakers. Again, 2028 class. They're going to have a lot of cap space. Very similar to what I said over the summer to you guys. I believe this was kind of like a gap year for the Lakers because a lot of their guys are going to come off the books this summer. LeBron, Rui, Gabe Vincent, Maxi Kleber, Jackson Hayes will all be free agents this summer. DeAndre Ayton, Austin Reeves, Marcus Smart all have player options. We know the whole Reeves thing. We'll see what they end up doing with that. The LeBron thing, I said it during the summer. There's LeBron. I thought this was going to be his last year. I told you guys that. But we got so far into the year where I'm like, he hasn't announced it. It's not going to be his last year. I got something I want to say about the whole LeBron thing. Obviously, there's been a disconnect between him and the front office. I talked about that during the summer, and I've talked about that during this year. So we're not going to talk too much about that right now because I'm going to come back to the whole LeBron thing here shortly. And I've said what I've said about Austin Reeves to you guys as well, which I just said that I believe Austin Reeves and Luka backcourt, I don't think can win you a title, and I stand by that, so I'm interested to see what they do with him there. Let's go to the next team. Like I said, we'll come back to the LeBron thing here shortly. Another team, 2028, hoping for free agency to strike gold is the Miami Heat. This summer, they're going to have Norman Powell as a free agent. He's been hooping. I don't know if Miami plans on extending him. He's going to probably be able to get close to $30 million in free agency, maybe more. Norman Powell is a great utilities player. He's done pretty good. He's had a career year this year, truth to be told. So I'll be interested to see if Miami decides to extend him or what happens with that, or is that a sign and trade potential? Andrew Wiggins has a player option this summer. Tyler Hero and Donovan Mitchell and Davion Mitchell, they both have one more year left on their deal. Miami never extended Hero. So that's going to be something to follow going into potentially this trade deadline, the summer and next trade deadline with Tyler Hero. And obviously, like I said, they're big on the 2028 free agent class. Another team also that's looking forward to the 2028 class is the LA Clippers. It's interesting enough because they gotta be careful because that year going into that free agent class is the same year Philadelphia gets their first round pick and it's unprotected. So they got to be careful how they scale, things the next few years. This summer, John Collins is a free agent. James Harden has a player option this summer. Most likely, he's probably going to pick that up, is what I'm assuming. And then he has 1 year. He has 1 year left on his deal. Kawhi has 1 year left on his deal after next year. Kawhi has one more year left on his deal. Same with James Harden. James Harden has one more year left on his deal as well. Another team is the Golden State Warriors. Again, same thing, 2028. They're trying to set themselves up for 2028 free agent class. Steph, Draymond, Jimmy, Al Horford, DeAnthony Melton all have 1 year left on their deal, and then they'll be a free agent. Jonathan Kuminga, we already know the deal with him is he's out of there. If it's this trade deadline or over the summer, he's out of there. We already know that. Another team I want to talk to you guys about, and this may be a surprise, is the Denver Nuggets. Peyton Watson's a restricted free agent, so we're interested to see how they navigate that based on how he's performed with some of these players have been out. A nice utilities player is Spencer Jones. He's a restricted free agent. Could he garner more money from a different contender. That's something to look out forward, to look towards, is seeing what happens with Spencer Jones, because I like him as a rotational player. Do they extend Cam Johnson? Cam Johnson has 1 year left on his deal after this year. Nikola Jokic, is he extension eligible this summer? I believe he is. He just has a player option after next season, so we'll see what happens there with the Joker. Most likely he's gonna stay in Denver, is what I'm assuming, but you just never know. Next team is the Indiana Pacers. Ben Mathurin's a restricted free agent. Do they decide to pay him, or do they do a sign and trade with him? Because I think I feel like Indiana loves their backcourt with Halliburton and with Nembhard. So interested to see what they do with Mathurin. And then also the Pacers are in a pretty great spot. They got their backcourt. They're getting ready, most likely going to have a top 6 lottery pick this year too. And I just said most likely because, it's a possibility it could fall out. Very rare, but it could fall out. So Pacers are in a good spot, but I just wanted to highlight that Ben Mathurin situation to you guys. We'll do 2 more teams, is the San Antonio Spurs. You got Harrison Barnes and Kelly Olynyk that are free agents this summer. Jeremy Sohan is a restricted free agent. Do they see him long-term with this core? Champagnie has a team option. Most likely they're going to pick that up. And then Keldon Johnson has 1 year left on his deal, so he'll play next year, and then he'll be a free agent. And then another team is the Cleveland Cavaliers. Cleveland, and this will tie into something else I'm going to say, and then we'll end this segment. Max Strus and DeAndre Hunter both have 1 year left on their deal after this year. Dean Wade and Thomas Bryant are restricted free agents this summer. And then Donovan Mitchell got 1 year left on his deal, and then he has a player option. He could be a free agent in 2028. So he's one of the players that highlights that class. I mean, there's a plethora of players. I would highly recommend you guys go back and look at all the players that are going to be potentially available. And I'm bringing up Donovan Mitchell because, and then we'll close it out here, and I kind of wanted to pause on the whole LeBron thing. So I kind of want to give you guys an insight on where my mind's at with this. And I have no insight on this, have no credibility. It's just me trying to put things together. LeBron never announced he's retiring. And obviously, I don't know him personally. You guys probably don't know him personally. But most likely, and respectfully and rightfully so, LeBron's going to want to do a farewell tour, right? He's going to want a farewell tour, and rightfully so. So that leads me to believe that this is probably not his last year. And the only real team that he could potentially go to where he won't get too much slander, because obviously LeBron is very aware of the media and wants to hold up his perception of who he is as a person and as a player, and rightfully so. This took me to a place to wonder, and Luka needs a backcourt mate. Is there a world, and I think I'm going to put this at 30%. Is there a world where Donovan Mitchell gets traded to the Lakers for LeBron to go to Cleveland and for a 1 year deal? Is there a sign and trade scenario where LeBron extends with the Lakers and gets traded for Donovan Mitchell to go to the Lakers? And it all really makes sense when you really step back and think about it. LeBron going back home to Cleveland, end his career. We don't even need to speak on that. And he gets to be with a team that's relevant, right? You get Jared Allen, you get Evan Mobley, you get Darius Garland, who's a clutch client, and you get a pretty solid roster in Cleveland. Okay, and then you get a coach who I would say LeBron respects Kenny Atkinson, right? So LeBron respects him as a head coach, from what I understand. So that's the LeBron aspect of it, right? Him going to Cleveland, right? And then Donovan Mitchell going to the Lakers. It makes sense as well if you think about it. Donovan Mitchell, him with Luka, that fits. Donovan Mitchell's play style is similar to Kyrie's, right? Scoring guard. That works. Donovan Mitchell age kind of lines up with Luka's timeline a lot better. Donovan Mitchell, obviously, I don't know if him and Coco Jones are, if they're engaged or married, but I would just say his girlfriend, right? Because I don't know what the relationship is, but she's in movies, music, Hollywood, probably a lot better than traveling to Cleveland and being in Cleveland to make stuff happen for her. It just makes sense to me. It really makes sense. And then Austin Reeves is the wild card, right? What do you do with Austin Reeves? That's where it gets interesting, right? What do you do with Austin Reeves? is there a scenario, because you're not doing the Luka, Austin Reeves, and Donovan Mitchell. You're not doing that. So do you use Austin Reeves as a trade chip, sign and extend him, send him to wherever he wants to go, and you guys receive quality role players to go with Donovan Mitchell and Luka? That's possible. Is there a pathway? And this is going to sound nuts, what I'm about to say. But is there a pathway where you send Austin Reeves to the Bucks and you end up with Giannis in LA with Luka and Donovan Mitchell? I would have to look at the numbers. It's possible. I know the CBA is set up to where it can't happen, but there's always loopholes, right? It's going to be interesting. But I do think that Luka and Donovan Mitchell thing, I think that's possible. I really, really do. I think that's a 30% chance. Because LeBron, I can't see LeBron going to Golden State. People would, slander his name for that. What other team? He's not going to go play for the Clippers. He's not going to go play for Boston. He's not going to go play for the Heat. He's not going to go play for the Knicks. Cleveland just makes the most sense, right? The most sense to where it receives the most noise, but also the less noise, right? The most noise saying, LeBron's going back to Cleveland, going to a farewell tour, but the least noise in the sense of, he's going to a stacked team, or, he's going to team up with Steph, or he's going to team up with X, Y, and Z, So that's just something I would throw at you guys. Watch how, and it's just ironic how today the whole Genie bus was, not happy with LeBron, how that just happened to come out. Watch out, you guys. Watch out for that scenario. LeBron going to Cleveland, Donovan Mitchell coming to the Lakers. It makes sense. It don't make sense for Darius Garland to go to the Lakers. I mean, I guess it could. Yeah, I guess it could. Darius Garland could go to the Lakers in theory. I guess it could. It could be Garland that ends up leaving and not Mitchell. But Mitchell, to me, makes more sense because Mitchell is older. He's going to want an extension. I don't think Cleveland's going to want to extend him. And I also think the whole experiment in Cleveland's kind of running its course with those four players being together, which is kind of crazy to think. But Mitchell's been there for 3 years, right? So I think it's running its course. And I also don't think he's going to want to extend there anyways either. So, yeah, I'm sorry. I kind of just went on a tangent with you guys. But you guys let me know down in the comment section below, what's your opinion about this whole situation? You guys let me know down in the comment section below. My next segment is a segment I like to call Games of the Week. Now, in Games of the Week, I'm talking about some type of NBA or college game that I really enjoyed watching, or it could be a game of some type of significance. Sometimes I do high school games as well. Today, we're going to do an NBA game that I just really enjoyed watching, and that is the Minnesota Timberwolves at the San Antonio Spurs. Spurs won this game 126-123, but take that with a grain of salt because Minnesota was playing the second night of a back-to-back. They had to play Houston the night before. So take this with a grain of salt. But the first half, Minnesota, to me, kind of just, had weak legs. They played the night before. They couldn't stop the Spurs. The Spurs got just about any shot that they wanted. Also, no Rudy Gobert in this game. They lost Naz Reid earlier on in the game. And then also they had to play the rookie, Joanne, as well. But I really loved in the first how aggressive Fox was. I have come on here and told you guys that I think the Spurs goes as far as Fox aggressiveness takes them. They were up by 24 going into halftime. Second half, third quarter, Minnesota kind of woke up, got their legs under them, was ready to get it going. I felt like Joanne, the rookie center from France, I feel like he kind of just calmed down coming out of halftime. But then also in the third quarter, you kind of had... They just went on a run. It was McDaniels. It was Ant. It was Bones off the bench, giving them life. But then we fast forward and we get into the fourth quarter. In the fourth quarter, it was really just Wemby, Keldon Johnson, and Fox basically just holding down and holding the storm off of Anthony Edwards, the nuclear bomb that Ant was dropping on him in the fourth quarter. I mean, he had 26 points in the fourth. He shot 67% from the field in the fourth, 71% from three. He shot 83% from the free throw line. And just for the game, Ant just went ballistic. I mean, he had a double nickel, and he was on a burner. He shot 58 on the game. He shot 58% from the field. He shot 56% from three, shot 80% from the free throw line during this game. And also when it comes to McDaniels throughout this game, and like I've said same thing with Fox aggressiveness. I've said the same things about Jaden McDaniels aggressiveness. Minnesota will go, I don't care how much, because Ant only can improve oh so much, right? Like year after year, we've seen Ant improve. But at some point, Minnesota needs McDaniels to be that bona fide number 2 or that bona fide number 3 for them night in and night out, right? They need him night in and night out to take 15 to 17 shots, in my opinion. And this was one of those games where he was aggressive. And I'm just like, where is this every night? You know, like he's still fairly young. McDaniels is not old. So it frustrates me when he's not this aggressive. But this game, he was being really aggressive. I think he finished with 23 or 24 points. He got to the free throw line. I think he had like 8-9 free throw attempts. But that's what we need. That's what we need out of McDaniels for Minnesota to get over that hump and to win a title, in my opinion. Just as important as them getting a point guard. But I think McDaniels' ascension is just as important, in my opinion, if not more important, as them getting a steady point guard in that starting lineup. Also, I want to give some love to Keldon Johnson. Keldon Johnson, just on the year, this game he had a really good game. Quietly had 20 points, shot 56% from the field, shot 60% from three. I mean, he had a really good, solid game. But I really want to show him some love because he just had a very solid year. Leaning into his new role. I don't know how much talk he's getting because I don't really listen to other podcasts, but I don't know how much talk he's really getting for Sixth Man of the Year, but he should be getting votes for that, in my opinion. He's had a really, really solid year, so I want to give him some love. Shout out to Keldon Johnson. And then Wemby just continuously being more aggressive. I really loved, because they just played Minnesota last week. And last week, Julius Randle got to him. The physicality got to him that Julius Randle was presenting to him. This game made adjustments. He brought the physicality back to Julius Randle. So I want to give a big shout out to Wemby in this game as well. I want to talk about some games that I'm looking forward to this week in the NBA. Thursday, if Joel Embiid and Paul George plays, Rockets at Philadelphia Thursday could be a really good game. Also Thursday, we get the Battle of LA, Lakers at the Clippers. Friday, we get Rockets at the Pistons. That will be a second night of a back-to-back for the Rockets, so don't know how good of a game that's going to be, but still a game to watch. Saturday, we get Cavs at Orlando. Saturday, we also get Lakers at Mavs. Luka returning to Dallas. Always is going to be box office. And then Monday, we get Magic at Cavs again. And then Tuesday, we get the Pistons at Denver. And then in college basketball, number 22, North Carolina at number 14, Virginia. We get that Saturday. Also Saturday, we get number 11, Illinois at number 4, Purdue. Saturday, also, we get Tennessee at number 17, Alabama. Saturday, also, we get number 9, Iowa State at Oklahoma State. We get the backcourt of Iowa State with Killian Touré and what's the other dude? His name is Tipsy. We get that backcourt versus Anthony Roy. Anthony Roy, if you haven't watched him play, I would highly recommend that. Really good scorer at Oklahoma State, shoots really well. Another game Saturday, we get number 6 Houston at number 12 Texas Tech. College game day is going to be there. That's going to be a great game. Honestly, truth be told, I would say that. And then the game I'm about to tell you guys about on Monday are the two games I'm looking forward to the most over this next week. Monday, we get number 1 Arizona at number 13 BYU. Next Tuesday, we get number 7 Nebraska at number 3 Michigan. You guys let me know down in the comment section below what was your game of the week and what games are you guys looking forward to this week. My last segment is a segment I like to call In the Lab. Now, in the Lab, I'm talking about today's NBA rookies, high school, college, or international basketball. We're going to do this fast because this episode is getting kind of long. I just wanted to show some love because I kind of was able to watch a full game of this prospect. His name is Cameron Williams. He's a number 3 rated player in class of 2026. He's a 6'11 power forward / center. He's going to Duke. I'm a Duke fan. But I got to watch his game. They ended up playing. Right now he goes to St. Mary's in Arizona. They played number 5 Paul VI out of Virginia. Paul VI ended up winning this game. Paul VI, I've talked about them in a game before. They have the number 2 rated player on their team, Jordan Smith, Jordan Smith is kind of undecided. I think he's going to go to Duke, but we'll see what happens. But anyways, during this game, I just want to talk about kind of some strengths and weaknesses I've noticed about Cameron Williams. And this is just based off of one game, so take this with a grain of salt. But still something I want to highlight to you guys. In this game, he dropped 31 points. He shot 12 of 18 from the field, 4 of 7 from 3. He had 3 assists and 3 rebounds. So some of his weaknesses, I want to talk about those first. The most obvious, and I say this about every high school player, but not every player ends up doing it. He needs to bulk up. He also needs to improve his rebounding, in my opinion. I think also him learning how to navigate playing in traffic. There was a lot of times where they would throw him the ball in the middle of the zone, and I noticed he wanted to dribble the ball when there was like 3 players huddled around him. I think him learning when to keep the ball high and when to pass during traffic, I think that's something that he needs to work on, and he'll learn as time goes and as he gets used to double teams and whatnot and catching the ball at different parts of the floor. But that's just something I wanted to highlight because some players never learn it. I think also him understanding how to attack smaller guards when they're on him. There was a multitude of times where Jordan Smith is a pretty stocky dude, but there was a multitude of times where Jordan Smith was on him, and I could tell Jordan Smith got under his legs. So he's got to improve there. I think that also will come with him bulking up. I think that's going to come a part of him learning and understanding how and when to attack smaller guards. But yeah, so that's something I also wanted to highlight to you guys. And now some of his strengths, to me, I mean, he's a very, very good to great shooter. I mean, can hit shots anywhere on the court. Very solid fadeaway jumper. He plays with a really good patience for his size. I know I kind of just highlighted to you guys him in traffic, but he does play with really good patience for his size, in my opinion. Has really nice agility in the open court. Very nice jump shot release. He showed signs of being able to be a solid passer, but still obviously has room to improve there. I think that also comes with age and experience and just getting the ball in certain parts of the court and dealing with double and triple teams and being face guarded and stuff. For me, and this is off of one game, take this with a grain of salt, but his player comp to me right now, he reminds me of a Jabari Smith / Jaren Jackson is kind of where I'm kind of framing him at right now. I didn't see much of his rim protection as much as the Jaren Jackson, but the plan on the perimeter, he reminds me kind of those two players. But I think also the potential that he could be something more than that is on the table. I'm excited to watch him as the rest of this year goes, as we go into Chipotle Nationals and as we go into the Peach Jam. I'm interested to see how he handles that. And then obviously, I don't know if he's going to be in the Nike Hoop Summit. I got to look at that roster. I have that. But Cameron Williams, I could see why he's rated number 3. For sure, one of the more impressive players I've watched thus far. And I've watched quite a few players in this class. But yeah, he's something. I'm looking forward to him at Duke. Duke is at least my time scouting players from Duke, because I've been scouting players from Duke, I would say probably close to 10 years now. He's for sure a type of player Duke hasn't had. So I'm interested, the combination of that size with that agility and shooting ability, we haven't had that. So I'm excited to watch how he does at Duke. And yeah, I'm just excited. I really liked what I've seen out of him. So I just wanted to bring that to you guys' attention. Otherwise, like I told you guys, we won't be talking about high school anymore until Chipotle Nationals, which is in April. And that's when the top 8 teams in the country get invited to play in this tournament. So we're going to have some really great basketball during that. I would say Chipotle Nationals, Peach Jam, and even you could say the Hoop Hall Classic are the 3 best high school tournaments. And we talked about Hoop Hall on here already. So yeah, I just wanted to let you guys know we won't be talking about high school for a few months. We'll let that kind of chill. We'll get ready for March Madness, and we'll just keep going ahead with NBA and college for the next few months. But I want to thank you guys. I'm about to go out of town for the next couple of days, so next week's episode may or may not be a shorter episode. Anyways, I want to thank you for taking the time out of your day to watch my episode. My name is PJ, and PJ is out.